Set? Okay, thank you.
Good.
Good evening, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Orange Board of Finance. It's Monday, November 20th. I'll call the meeting to order at 7:05. We'll begin by having everyone introduce themselves, starting on my right with our newest member, Anna.
I'm Anna Mann.
Kevin McNabola.
John Cifarelli, Finance Director.
Joe Nuzzo.
Jim Leahy.
Ajit Jain.
Kevin Houlihan, thank you. Okay, item number 3, public dialogue. Is there anyone who here would like to address the board? Okay, we'll move on. Item number 4, election of officers. So we need someone to nominate a chairman and then a vice chairman for the next 2 years.
I nominate Mr. Kevin Houlihan for the chairman and Mr. Jim Leahy for the vice chairman.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any other nominations? Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose, abstain, me? Okay. Thank you. Nobody wanted to do this job?
You're in handcuffs for the next 4 years, young man.
I remember us being here in 2004 when Anna was representing our town in the Olympics, thinking that was a great thing, and that was 5
That's
years
right.
into
Was
my.
that 2004?
Long
Yeah.
time ago.
It's like somebody from Orange is
I
in the
remember getting
Olympics.
all
It
the
was
emails
wild.
from Sean every day, twice a day. Where was that? Was it Italy?
Athens.
Greece.
Athens? Yeah.
Greece, nice.
Yep. Okay, item number 5, Amity update. Mr. Nuzzo.
Good evening, everyone. So we met last week at the Amity Finance Committee. So the first budget presentation to the board is going to be next Monday, the 27th, at 6 o'clock in the lecture hall. So opportunity for all of us, if we would like to meet with the department head, listen to the department heads, meet with the superintendent, and discuss their early budget requests. So that's next Monday, the 27th.
Is that an AFC meeting, Joe? Or?
No, not an AFC meeting, just open to, I think we have an invitation to observe the presentations by the department heads, the first presentations by the board, to the board, to the superintendent. But no, not an AFC, not an AFC meeting.
Okay. So were you there last year? I was there last year.
I did not go last year, no.
Okay, and I don't think, were you, no, you were already over in the new.
I was not
Okay,
a department chair anymore.
yeah,
Department head.
okay.
Second item, we discussed the third quarter results from Fiducian. So the Amity pension has a balance of $15.7 million currently. Quarter-to-date performance, negative 3.4. Year-to-date, 6.2. And then one-year return has been 13.6. So the one-year return's been pretty good overall. The Amity OPEB has a balance of $3.3 million. Again, similar results, down 3, negative 3 for quarter to date. Year to date, it's 5.8, and then 1 year is about 13% return in the OPEB fund. And lastly, Amity Sick and Severance has about $458 balance in there, and again, similar results, negative 2%. Year to date up almost 6, and 1 year about 11% return. So I think they're pleasantly surprised the way things have gone this year, as most of us have seen recently. Been okay overall on our return.
October is always a tough month for whatever reason.
Really?
Oh, yeah, historically, yeah.
Summer
Oh, I didn't
adjustment.
know that.
Investments, I don't know what it is.
Oh,
Both your
11%
crashes,
for a year. That's pretty good,
1929,
Joe.
1987, we're in
Yeah.
October, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
87.
87 and 29,
Yeah,
yeah.
I had remortgaged at 235, and then my house was worth 165 all of a sudden.
So we talked a little bit about the teacher's contract. Early indications are it's going to be up 12 to 13%, as we asked Kev last time, 2 months ago when we met last. So looking like 13% for a 3-year contract increase. The state average has been 12%, give or take, for a 3-year average as well. So I think they're looking to cash in on the salaries. So we're all going to pay a little more next year in taxes, probably, statewide.
And that's just on GWI, general wage increase?
Yes.
That doesn't include steps or nothing?
No
Right,
steps,
right,
yeah, no steps.
Yep.
I thought that the total contract was 12.49
For 3 years.
for 3 years.
3, yeah, 3 years, yes.
When you
yes.
say total contract,
Yeah.
Anna, does that mean with the steps?
Oh, does it, okay, so we didn't get into all of the detail, they just said, Chris Brown was.
So it's higher than
talking-
we normally have observed in the past?
In terms of its settled contract?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is across the state.
Yeah,
Now
well,
all
it's
of-
across the country.
all of
And I
contracts
think we
are
all
set.
expected it,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know, with
Yeah.
everything
With the
going
way
on with
teaching
COVID
is
and
going
everything.
right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
What's the term you use for I just registered it as
GWI?
all in, but that's not how you phrased it.
I just said total contract, so it's a GWI plus the steps.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
total contract is the way to think of it, is all in, okay. Thank you.
As far as the financials, September forecast, negative 207. October's forecast was a positive, almost 300,000 surplus, again, early in the year. That's kind of where things are at this point. They're saying that Orange's percentage has gone up, will be for this budget season, so we're expecting increases to us.
Yep. I got a slide on that,
Yeah,
Joe,
Jim's
the
got that,
details.
so-
Yeah.
Again, not too much discussion on the financials, it's early on in the year. The library and the media center is moving forward. And there were 4 architect firms presented their budgets for the architectural firms, for the library media center renovation. And Silver, Petroselli and Associates were approved, 12 in favor, 1 abstention, to hire them as the lowest bidder to do the architectural designs of the new library media center. So I think we had a couple of meetings in there. It's time for an update. It's been a long time. Definitely outdated. So, and as you know,
What's the, that's just a design,
just the architect, yeah.
and then they're gonna have to do some kind of construction.
Yeah, we don't have indication just yet.
Anybody have a ballpark for what that's gonna cost?
We didn't get into that just yet.
And since this is a very long-term investment, how do they plan on paying for it, do you know?
We didn't get into all that yet, Jim.
No,
I
the
would
cost of it would be
assume
based on.
that would be a
what-
bond.
Yeah, the cost of it will be based on how it's designed. And then from there, it'll either be bonded or most likely bonded, I would think.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the fairness issue of why you bond. It's not just whether you feel like bonding or not. It's a
Yeah.
question of whether it's a certain number of years. In
Oh,
other
yeah.
words, it's not
Yeah.
fair, let's just say we could chunk it in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Well, but if it lasts 20.
No, it'll last
And the
20.
people paying the
already
freight for
lasted.
the 3 years, right?
It's already lasted well over 20,
30
so,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, the current, yeah, but the next one we would assume would last maybe not 20, but more than 3.
Longer, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
idea. Am I getting that right, Kevin, in terms of how
That's
these-
how I think, yeah.
you know? That would be important to find out, Joe.
Yeah,
if
we
could,
will,
all
once we
right?
get a little further along, sure.
Especially when
Yeah, I
their,
mean,
their
they're just
their
in the
debt
design
schedule is
phase.
dropping down significantly, so.
Yeah,
if they
Now's
don't
the time to
they-
do it, if you're
Yeah,
gonna
I mean,
bond.
go out to bond and,
yeah.
But if they have no idea what the cost is
Yeah.
going to be yet, they haven't even done the.
Oh, no, I'm saying this, Anna.
Funding source.
What would be the funding source, whatever the cost would be, if it's an asset that's gonna last 10 to 20 years? That's the idea.
All right, and then, as we always like to talk about, the medical claims. So 2022-23 actuals were about 94%. The 23-24 forecast is 106%.
Wow.
So, big difference there. We'll see how that shakes out.
In the middle of last year, that was 101%, which eventually went down to 94. So you have to take the current, keep an eye on it for sure. I mean, rigid eye. But there is history as to at this
Yeah.
point, and then it kind of dips down. Doesn't guarantee it's going to happen in any other year, but there is precedent there. By the way, that's in the material I sent out when I got those files from, I think I got them for Terry this time.
And that was basically about it. Any questions or anything? I mean, again, it's early on. Yeah, John.
I know you, myself, and Kevin got an email from Terry Loomis that Dr. Byers would like to present the budget in January to this committee.
We
So,
did?
Yeah.
Yes.
So do we want to do that? That's been our standard practice the last
January 22nd
2
meeting.
years.
Yes.
I just need to know that so I can reply to her and put it on our agenda for January.
Yeah.
Have a feeling you feel like you might not have got that email?
Well, it came to me and John. And
Think
then-
it
Oh,
I think
okay.
it went
Oh,
to
did-
Kevin
was
too.
Kevin on there?
Here's what I'm-
When was it sent out?
Last week.
It was why I was out, probably within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Could I request either John or perhaps you, Joe, as our AFC rep? Could you, we'll never hit the iceberg except when we hit, right? So my idea is perhaps you used Kevin's orange.com or whatever, and if you're like me, I don't ever use that, right?
Right.
So all I'm saying is, if Jen
We'll make sure
has
she
a email address that either isn't right or is the wrong one.
I'll check. I could have missed it easily, you know.
You
with-
think miss very
It could have
little.
been copied on there, John. I don't know. I didn't print
in
the email
history.
out.
Lately, it's been hard.
All I'm saying is let's double check so that it
Yeah.
won't, we can
Yeah.
avoid that in the future,
that's
that's
fine.
all.
But
That's
that-
the idea, I
We
don't know.
probably got that on Tuesday, I think, after my
Okay.
meeting. But anyway, so on our January 22nd meeting, she'd like to present the board, the budget to us for the first time.
On
January
January,
22nd.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that was it for our AFC meeting last week.
Just speaking of emails, Jim, did you say you sent emails out with materials prior to this meeting?
not any material, let me think. I replied to all.
Okay, I'm just not on an email
We'll
list
get
for
you on
this,
there.
just
Yeah,
to let
we'll-
you know,
we'll-
so I didn't get
we'll-
any
we'll-
materials prior to this meeting.
Oh, John Cifarelli sent you an email.
John
She
Saffarelli?
got the
Yeah, but Jim sends out the
Right.
Amity package that they
Oh,
send to
okay.
him,
I got you.
to everybody.
Gotcha.
So if
Yeah,
you weren't
I
on
haven't
that,
gotten- no, I haven't
then.
gotten
Well, I
any
tell you
emails,
what,
no.
I'll just track down stuff that John
I didn't
sent
get
me
anything
and
from you.
I'll figure it out while we,
Wonder if
we'll
I'm
do this
missing-
You
live.
probably you forgot the N.
It went to the lady in Australia.
Did.
Oh, so you
That's
didn't
where
get
I was
anything for
going.
this
I haven't
meeting?
gotten anything.
He went to Australia.
Okay.
I saw John
I saw
on-
her name on it.
I didn't get a
'Cause I-
nasty name of the
Yeah.
email back.
Only if you keep
Okay, and
sending
here
them
will
like
be the
that.
test. I probably, and if you see your name, is that it?
Nope.
There it is, no N.
And a man at Gmail.
So from your email, John, I saved Anna's email address.
All right, so you
That
found it, so
email
I was gonna
address
look
is
for it.
wrong.
Correct.
So,
That explains why I've
I
gotten
think I
nothing.
could do this right now, live, for people at home who are
One
really,
more,
That's-
Jim, one
Clearly
more.
not
That's not the right
intentional.
one.
not the right one?
Right there.
It's great getting younger, let me tell you, Joe. All right, I'll fix that, not live,
Who's Amity? What's this?
I do.
yeah.
That's weird.
Okay,
No, there's two N's, but then there's an N in between Anna and Van. Because Anna-
okay.
Okay, there we go. We're all set. Okay. All right, no worries.
And just to let you know, the architect's cost was $65,500 for their fees to
Okay.
get started.
You good with Joe?
Done.
Item 6, Mr. Leahy, Vice Chairman's report.
Okay, I've got the, said he was trying to find his cursor. You know, I wish I had grown up knowing how to use my fingers for a mouse. There it is. All right, thank you. We'll get right to this. 2 items plus a calendar. So one of them's the Amity one, Joe. Okay. Joe, you alluded to it. This will just be the details. I sent it out in an email when I got the information. The impact of Orange student enrollment shift at Amity for the budget of fiscal year 24-25, what impacts it will have for us. And some thoughts on the reval that's in the process, the revaluation of town property. So I spent some time today giving you a draft. It's the first draft. I got tired of doing it, so if there's edits, I'll be more than welcome. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna look at the allocations in the Amity budget and how it impacts us. I got some thoughts on the upcoming reval that's in process right now. and that affects everybody's taxes, and then our calendar, which is just what we usually do. Okay. Here's the slide that comes up. Joe, you're familiar with it. Some of you are familiar with it. I'm not going to spend a great deal of time. But basically, every year at about this time, October 1st, all right, they have an enrollment report, and they call it the Average Daily Membership, ADM. And basically what it says is, hey, town, if you've got so many kids in our system, all right, your share turns out to be thus and such. It really comes down to basics, okay? And although it'd be tough to read, what you see here is by grade going across, including pre-K and K. You have all the grades, 1 through 6 on the left there. First Bethany, then Orange, and then Woodbridge, as you can see. And then you have the Amity population, 7 through 12. Then you have outside placement from each of the towns and how many there are, and there are not that many. Then they have OCAG, I believe it is, if I got it right. And then you have ADM. And ADM is essentially this. If you add up all those at 7 through 12, and then you add up the outside placements and the total number of OCAG, Magnet, and Charter, then you get a total for each town. That's the total for Orange. And then if you go to the bottom, you've got the total for the ADM. Then you have 2 other categories after that, and with the benefit of Anna here today, she can educate us just slightly on each of those. But as you can see, it says open choice, it says tuition by school, and then it says exchange students, and that gets you to another total. So the actual total in Amity is 2166, you can see on the purple lower right bottom, but the ADM is 2,116. Okay, so before I ask Anna to give us a few words on those 3 columns to the right of the red boxes, does everybody get the gist of the slide? Because I'm going to send out, as we always do, right, send out the slides to the team. Is everybody good with the structure of what we're looking at? Okay, so while we're on it, Anna, why don't you educate us with more detail than I know, or at this moment, of what those 3 boxes.
Well, I have a
in.
few questions first. So,
Yeah.
those open choice totals are Amity or total for Bethany, Orange, and Woodbridge?
The open choice is, maybe it's a slide, well, I assume this is, common knowledge, but maybe not. No, this would be for Bethany. This
But
would,
for all grades or just
Right,
Amity?
that's my question. Amity or all, or each of the
it
towns?
would be for Amity. Thank you. My understanding
So,
is for
okay,
Amity.
so Orange has an additional group of open choice students who are open choice,
8, yeah.
in addition to those 8. So for pre-K 6, there are other students who are open choice.
I believe so. In other words, I don't know why we would say this is Amity 2166 if these, which, 43, 6, and 1 add to that, and that's how you get 2166.
So
I don't
what's-
see why we would be saying that is Amity if these were in K through 6.
I guess the question is just where did you get that data from? Did you get it
Oh,
from?
this is
each
Terry.
Okay, so if it
This
is
is
Terry,
Terry's chart,
then
yeah.
it would be just Amity.
Yeah.
So your question is about
What makes me, in
is
each of
open
those
choice?
categories, what am I doing, just educate us a bit.
So students, and this is true for Orange as well, Orange subscribes to Open Choice as well.
Yep.
And so it's a program that school districts share with local cities.
Yep.
So whether it's New Haven or Bridgeport or Danbury or whatever, and that students within those municipalities and the cities have the option, they apply and they go through a discernment process
Okay.
or an application process, and then are placed through the Open Choice program, and that school districts sign on in order to, offer the opportunity for students to come
Okay.
to their district. Now, the way Amity works, because it takes, it is the feeder districts of the 3 towns, if a student is an open choice in any one of the 3 towns, they matriculate through to Amity. So Amity doesn't necessarily open seats to open choice kids in and of themselves. It depends on the year, it depends on how much the enrollment is. But if there is a low enrollment year for, let's say, grade 7 or grade 9, they may open up more seats. But the students who come, who are open choice students who are from New Haven, who come to Amity have, I would say 90% of the time gone through the open choice program in one of our three sister towns.
K through 6?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. So open
So those
choice
are
on this
students
chart
that are-
means students coming to us.
Correct.
From others, from other.
From New Haven.
From New Haven particularly, but it could be elsewhere.
Well, we only subscribe to the open choice of New Haven. That's just what,
Okay.
by district.
I didn't know that. Okay, good.
And then obviously tuition or students who pay tuition to come to Amity.
Why would a student from Bethany pay?
No, those students are, a tuition student is someone who lives outside of the district.
Yeah, but I'm asking myself, if I'm from, say, Milford, how would I hit either the Bethany, Orange, and I'm not,
You can't. She said it's only New Haven.
no, I'm talking about the tuition one,
This
too.
is why I don't think those numbers are Amity. I think that total 43 at the bottom, for example,
Yes,
8 and 27, those are not Amity, those are open choice
okay.
that are, because,
I thought it was this.
but
I know a
don't
student who's in college now, and he lives in Orange, but he went to a magnet school elsewhere. I think it was Nanawag.
Yeah, so that would be the VOAG that you look at the top there.
Oh, that would be the column with the,
Yeah, and actually, if a student lived in Orange and went to VOAG, it
Okay.
would be the Trumbull VOAG. If they lived in Bethany or Woodbridge, it would be Nanawag.
okay. So,
So it depends on
so
your
if all those
district.
students come from New Haven, right, in
In
the
open choice.
Open choice,
Mhm.
why are they
43 students.
assigned to any of the three towns? Would be
Because
my
that would
question.
be that, so, because they start in Orange, Bethany, or Woodbridge in the
Oh, and then they
elementary
just
district,
maintain it.
and then they go all the way through K-12, just like any other Orange, Bethany, or Woodbridge
Oh,
student.
so that helps me understand why so many of them might be in the Woodbridge column, because New Haven's so close to Woodbridge as opposed
It
to.
doesn't really have to
Bethany.
do with proximity, it has to do with the different districts open their seats, how many seats they open to.
Oh, okay,
And that's why
okay.
it's not in the 2116 to actually calculate the ADM.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Because they're not technically so the reason you have ADM is so that when you report to the state, they do their state report cards, the Next Generation Accountability Report. And so one of the major factors on that Next Generation Accountability Report is your daily average membership, which has to do with the attendance of students. So first they have to figure out how many students you have. Then they calculate how much your chronic absenteeism is.
okay, so I've had two
This
learnings
is
from
getting
this
way in the
listening.
weeds, though. Just want to let you know.
Let's just stick to the ADM.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, one thing I've learned, two things I've learned. Number one is, and thank you for this,
My pleasure.
open choice means people coming into our system from outside, and it's 100% you're saying from New Haven.
For our
Sec-
open choice.
For our open choice, right. Secondly, they are most likely, those 43 people, students from New Haven, who have been through some or all of the K through 6 program of the towns on
One of
which.
the three towns.
One of the three towns.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I'll just go on, but thank you for educating me on that. Okay, so here's the memo that I think I sent out. The memo is from Terry to the superintendent. You can see I highlighted two particular items for us. One is the numbers, right, so on the left there, number one. You can see the ratio has gone up from 48.894 from the prior year, Orange's share of the total, to 49.716, which is a less than a percent, 0.822. And what this means is in next year's budget, we will be paying the freight on 49.716 rather than what we paid for the current year that we are in. This is what we see every year, but for those who never got into the details, or for them it's new, people at home, for example, people on this board, whomever, that's what it means. So without anything else being increased on the budget, and Terry does this every year to give a heads up, is what does that mean? So with no increase in budget, we now know for Orange, that will be an increase of $438,853. All right, what you can see in the other towns, you can see in Bethany over there, that it's gone from 17.452 down over 1% to 16.304. So even though they only went down 18 students, their percentage of the total dropped a lot. And as you can see, that for Bethany is like they're swimming in money here, in a sense, because they'll have a reduction in the budget that they would present with, not counting increase will be different, right? That'll be additive, all right? And so that's the data. So I just wanted to make sure we all now know that that's coming our way.
The home run we had last year couldn't be sustained.
Right, exactly.
Well, it is what it
has been
is. I
over
mean, you know,
50%
Yeah.
in the
You
history
know.
in the past, so
And last year, it
went
dropped
down by a lot.
okay. Everybody good? Okay, this is, and again, I just happened to have it, I found it actually somewhere, so I said, well, I'll throw it in. So when you get it, you can compare last year's numbers to this year's numbers, in case you're interested, since I had it. I didn't want to spend any more time on it, but now you know why it's in the deck. And the last thing I want to mention, if you look on the lower left, it doesn't pronounce itself well. But when I looked at it the first time, I said, holy moly, look at that. If you look at the numbers, it says 2,611. And I'm saying to myself, wow, do we have a tidal wave of students coming in? 2,611, we only have 2,116 right now. Or at most, if you want to count the 2,166 over on the far right? But then I realized that they were adding up not just 1 through 6,
Picking up
they were up
kindergarten.
adding pre-K and K as well. So when you add those up, you can see it's 106 and 343. So that's about 450. So you subtract 450, and you can see you're in the ballpark anyway in terms of the students that we have now. And then how many people come into the population, how many move out, how many go to private school at different times, all that are variables that happen, but at least you have a sense of what's on that chart. So I wanted to make that notation to you since it threw me a little bit at the outset. Any questions? That's the last slide I have on this topic. Okay, good. On the reval, I thought I'd get this started since this will be happening and this will affect taxes, right? So what is a reval? So here's some background things I got. Reval is a revaluation of town real estate, residential and commercial, all right? We've been undergoing that analysis, John, for a while now, right? And a revaluation, the definition I got was a program undertaken periodically to adjust the value of all properties in a municipality, a town or a city, to 100% of market value. That's the definition of it that I found online. Currently, all property in Orange is undergoing a reval, all right? A reval is by rule. I don't know what kind of rule, so I use rule. It may be a mandate, it may be a law, I don't know, Kev, if you know it.
State statute.
State statute, law, is conducted every 5 years, and I think I remember, Kevin, it used to be 10 many, many years ago.
Yep.
Okay. So, and the final bullet there, historically, in exceptional cases, I remember in the mid-2000s, 2006, 7, 8, somewhere in that range, a reval can be, quote, phased in over a period of years when there's going to be a massive change and people wouldn't be ready for it. So you have to have authorization for doing a phased-in reval when the impact would be dramatic to do in 1 year. So I just wanted to give that as a background. And the idea, the whole purpose of doing revals is to fairly distribute the tax burden among property owners, right? So that's what we're going to be doing now. Here's some thoughts on reval, and I went back and grabbed the mill rate chart that was in last year's presentation. First thing you might notice in the chart is when a reval happens, for example, in 13, 14, in that process, we did a reval and the mill rate went down. Typically, as property values go up, and the more they go up, the more the mill rate will come down. You can see that a little bit more in around 18, 19 here, when it went from 33.28 down to 32. So we don't know at this moment in time what's going to happen, but my idea was this, well, the whole thing starts with spending, right? Whether it's the town, Amity, Orange BOE, that starts the need for revenue at all, obviously. And then the revenue from all sources must cover what we spend. Now, most of our revenue come from taxes that's going to be based on that mill rate. I checked out a couple of the last few years. Last year, Kevin, I think it was 92 point 93 or something like that. And then, Kevin, I saw 94.2 about 3 years ago. So it's in that range that most of our revenue comes based on this mill rate. And the mill rate gets applied whether it's real estate, personal property, or motor vehicle, pretty much. So the mill rate is the tax rate required when we're trying to cover our budget spending. That's how I decided to sum it up. Now, remember, this is my first attempt this year at doing slides for trying to explain what a reval is. All right, so if you have edits, I'll hear them now or as we go. It's fine by me. Now, this is a chart we've been using a lot, and over the last few years, and you can see we've used this one over the last 3, you can see that we had the average home value at retail at $355,550. So that orange number clearly is going to go up. I think we don't see a lot of houses in the market these days at $355,500. All right, and if that's an average from a while back. And then we do the assessment, so let Excel take 70% of that, and then if you have a mill rate, then you get your property values. But essentially, that's the number that's going to change. Now, it's going to change in average, but then it's going to change for everybody, right? So everybody's going to be a little bit of different. So I just wanted to mention that change will be in the air when it comes to the reval. So this is a chart I used back in 2018, the graphic of the chart. And basically, what's going to be the impact on a reval? Well, it really depends. And what I mean by that is this. On the left-hand side, your property value right now is pink. I'll call that the old. And maybe it's going to remain the same. Back then, it might have remained the same, but it could have gone up to blue, or it could have gone down to orange. I think in these days, I think we can see by the market, most of them, it's a question of how much it's gone up, particularly since it's been 5 years. But anyway, we know that our current mill rate is 3.31. So the required mill rate to cover the budget last year was 3.31. At this point, we have to await the grand list to really get our arms around the details of the reval. But that concept of your property value times the mill rate, property value at 70%, I should have said that, times the mill rate, that will equal your property taxes. That's the same chart we used, Kevin, in 2018. So tax changes either higher or lower will depend on the property assessments and whatever the new mill rate is. I mean, that's just basic math. All right?
That's 23, 24 up there.
Where are we going?
There's a violation
It's gonna
up there.
it's
34.
gonna be on the budget and everything
Major
else. So
violation.
we're kinda going in
Joe,
circles.
sharp-eyed Joe, right there.
Keeping it fair, Joe.
Keeping it fair. That's what we like, Joe.
Keep it fair.
Very good, very strong. We like that. On my left, keeping it fair for the masses. Thank you, Joe. Okay, a couple more charts. So what I did is I wanted to bring it home because I have a feeling it's interesting, the math. So let's imagine we have a town with 3 houses, or 3 groups of houses, A, B, and C. And per the last reval in 2018, one was worth $300,000 on average. One was worth $500,000, or one was worth $700,000. Okay? And I just estimated what the number would be for right now. I did the A one because that's kind of like what my house was. And then recently, my next door neighbor who passed just sold yesterday, a couple days ago, for about that number there, $350. So you could see the increase is $150. And I think it's fair that if it was $500 5 years ago, it might be going now for $650. All right? So that also would go up $150. And if it was $700,000 and now it was $850, it would also go up $50. So I cherry picked. I just decided what this number would be in this right here. All right? Now, what's interesting is not the increases are the same, right, in each of the 3 houses in my fictitious example here. But the percentage increase is not. Right? The percentage increase here, it's gone up half, it went up half as much, it started at 300, so it's up 50%. And as you can see, although it's going up 150 here, the base is 500, so it went up 30%, right? And so too, 150 over 700,000 only goes up 21%. So even though when you add them all up, the 450 increase, 3 times 150, right, Joe? All right, you're going up an average of 30%, but the A house went up higher. So the A house's value as a percentage went up more, right? And if that's the case, which would be my case, right? Unfortunately, I'll probably pay in more taxes compared to what I'm paying now. Not more taxes in aggregate. Obviously, a more expensive house would be paying more, right? But it would be the rate would be higher. But it depends, all right? Because we're going to be having all these houses in Orange revalued, and then they'll add them up and stack them up. And I'll show you what it looked like. The second thing I think that's important too is the percentage. Once you, John, get rid of the money we get from non-mill rate sources, right? And we're only looking at that. How much is the commercial and residential of that pie? I'm calling it a pie of all the commercial and residential. Is 33 and 67 anywhere close to what we have now? John, do you know? I didn't know the number either. I had in my head 70-30 in the past, but I think it was less than that. But my point is this. If real estate is going up, Kev, check me on the logic. If real estate is going up, but commercial is flat or going down, then the aggregate of that grand list, the residential is going to be a higher percentage of that body.
That's correct.
And that means
Yeah,
that
burden.
those people inside the residential, all of us who live in town, all right,
That's why we did the 5-year phase-in before,
Yeah.
That's right.
Because we're gonna bear the
because
burden.
commercial got crushed.
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah.
So we'll have to keep an eye on it, but it seems to me those are two very important, what might be happening down the road. Now, the good news is, don't forget, your property's worth a lot more money if you're paying more taxes on it, right? I mean, let's not forget that, right? But it'll all depend on, okay, how much are we spending? What's the increase in the mill rate? And what's the increase in the grand list? And then what kind of mill rate on that grand list do we need to pay for the budget that we've created? So, that's what I've got. Does any of this sound right, Kevin?
Yeah, and that's pretty
Give
much
me-
what's happening in other cities and towns. Mostly on the residential side.
Yeah,
The commercials in the cities that I've looked at, all the commercials are relatively flat.
Not
That
going
have,
down.
that-
Yeah,
if-
fast, yeah,
for
that's what I
reval.
think.
now, been flat?
They've been flat. And so the residential have to pick up the tax burden because the residential
Oh, so
properties.
this would be, so I could just do an Excel thing, say it's 2/3, 66 and
Yep.
33, then say this goes up 30%, this goes up 0, see what the new numbers are.
Yeah.
And that gives you a different ratio, that gives me a new one of these circles with the yellow and the blue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you could say from that,
Yeah, actually apartment buildings too are actually up around average about 45%, which is higher than single-family
The
homes.
rents are through the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
oh, so
they're-
some commercial.
So those landlords that own those apartments, they're
They're paying a
gonna
lot
they're
more.
gonna pay a lot, yeah, for apartments. Because, I mean, part of the analysis that goes into assessments is not only what condition the properties are in, whether they're in fair, good, or poor, but also it's also kind of based on demand. I mean, you have a 50% increase in single-family homes, the home style that you have. Those homes in Orange are in high demand because you have a lot of new millennials, kids that want to get into those homes, buy those homes at a lower rate. They can't afford the $850,000 home, so they're buying the homes between $300 and $450, and then of course they have to dump $100 to $150 into them in some cases. So at the end of the day, they should have bought the $600,000 house, but the reality is those are in higher demand. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but your numbers that you've put on here in the chart, historically, what I've seen in other cities are not far off from where we're gonna end up. In fact, some of the residentials might be even higher, like in that B range. You may see 35, 38% in that B range.
In other words, it goes up from 500 to say 700, so that'd be a 40% increase,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So-
All right, well, I just give one some food for thought, rather than all of a sudden in April, we're doing a town budget hearing, and, oh, let us tell you about the reval. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, maybe I should write an article about it, but anyway. I thought 3 or 4 hours today
So
doing
John,
this
when do
was
we get the
enough.
results of that? In February?
We'll get something in from Mark, probably the middle to end of February.
Right.
He's out actually now on a medical leave, so that'll probably slow him down a little bit too. But when I get those numbers, I'll do what I did 6 years ago. I'll give you what the mill rate would have to be
Yep.
to get this, collect the same amount of taxes that we're collecting this year, so you'll
Right.
know.
Kind of the same
how
thing
far
Terry
down.
gave us in the other thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so people know, if they get
Oh.
their assessment,
Yep.
don't multiply it by the current mill rate.
Right.
So I got enough calls,
Right.
people swearing at me years ago saying, what are you gonna do with all this extra money? My taxes are going up. I said,
Right.
no, the budget's not done yet. We don't know
Right.
what it's gonna be, but.
Yeah.
My
that's,
guess is,
That's unfair,
Kevin,
because you get that letter and it says your new.
Yeah.
going back, if we're having that high an increase in the residential,
Yep.
my guess is that we'll have more of a drop down on a mill rate.
Oh, yeah, significantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, than we had in the last 2 revals. Kevin,
So you'll pay on your house, but you save on your car.
Yeah.
Kev, I have one more chart I forgot.
Actually,
Yep.
that might be a problem also. There's a committee in Hartford studying the car taxes, and their idea is to drop car taxes completely. So we collect in excess of $6-7 million in
So
car
when you say
taxes.
this group in Hartford is talking about dropping car taxes, are they talking about commercial also? Like we would lose the FedEx fleet?
I don't know. That I
Yeah,
don't know.
if we lose UI and FedEx, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big hole.
Like I said,
So he's
we're,
gotta lobby these people.
we collect,
Stop.
Yeah.
we collect $6 or $7 million in taxes, so if we lose $6 million right now, that's, a mill is $2 million,
Where
And
does
if
so.
commercial went down, and if then if FedEx, Amazon, if they're not paying on their vehicles anymore,
Yeah, that would be.
that's,
Kevin, where do these ideas come from?
I have no idea.
Hartford.
They don't
It's
come from me.
Hartford.
No, Hartford's, no, I mean, they don't, it
They,
isn't the soil. I
it
mean,
started,
you know,
it started with, a few years ago, how unfair the car taxes are, that if you have the same car in Orange and the same car in New Haven, you're paying quite a bit more
Well, that's a
in
legitimate
taxes
argument.
for it. It
'Cause
is
I
a
got people in
legitimate
Waterbury, and they
So
had a mill
then
rate
they-
of 84,
Yeah.
Right.
and you're paying $2,000 on a Honda Civic instead of 300.
Right.
That
So
makes
then
sense, and they
the,
capped
so
it.
then the idea was, okay, let's legitimize it, and they made the mill rate for the car taxes that you couldn't go over, what was it?
32 or
41?
something like that?
Yeah, whatever it was, and they paid us for the difference that 1 year. Now, they're talking about that the car taxes are unfair completely, and there's, I think the report is supposed to come back in February when the legislature meets again for the new year, and whatever they say in there, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, one would have to think that they would only be doing that for
Yeah.
residential.
I would hope, yeah.
Particularly, because that would benefit like the inner cities, Waterbury, Hartford, New Haven, to give the residents a
Right.
tax
And it
break.
should be made for
Yeah.
a person,
It shouldn't
not
be for commercial.
corporate
Corporation.
entity.
Yeah, yeah, but one to keep an eye on for sure.
Yeah, because things
yeah.
happen, they have good intentions, and then
Right.
it's worded wrong, and next thing
Right.
you know, we're blowing up.
Kev, I do have one more chart.
Jim, I have a comment
Yes.
about this.
Go ahead, please.
So here, like in this analysis, the assumption is like type A houses, type B houses, type 3 houses, they are all like 1/3. Like 1/3 are A, 1/3 are B, 1/3 are C. But the composition of the houses which are in category A might be higher. 50%.
Well, actually, you could go down that road, or you could say there really is no such thing as there is an A, there is a B, there is a C. But what you really have is, how many houses do we have at residential, John? Is it 4,800, 4,854?
5,200.
5,200. We have 5,200 in an Excel document, all right, that Brancasi has. And the next tile I'll show you is the result of my having done the analysis from the data that was really there. Okay, this is just giving you an idea of what might happen, so you won't say, oh, that's a more expensive house, 850. They should be paying more as a rate increase. No. I should, and that happens to be what my house is like, is I should be, because my asset went up 50%, whereas someone else's asset went up. Yes, it's more than twice my value, but that's not a tax concern, that's just happened to go up 21%. That's the reason, I'm trying to get ahead of that argument by building this example. And once I look at the numbers, I say, oh, that's fair, you know? Because they're paying on 850 rather than me paying on 450, but my increase in that 1 year would be more. But let's not forget, all the values are going up. Last one I wanted to show you was this. This is 2018, and this is the end result of the last reval for residential. I took that very chart I just mentioned to you, and 5,200, you know, and then I sorted it by, you know, you have the columns of increase, and then you can kind of sort by, you know, so by that column, so you get, anyway, there's a way of grouping them so you can find out how many there are, and I created the groupings you can see on the x-axis here. And as you can see, the overall increase back then was less than 1%, but it varied. So in this particular case, unlike other years, when everybody's tax will be increased by a certain mill rate impact, but when you have a reval, it's not only just the mill rate, but what happened to your asset, as I explained in the prior chart. But you can see 46.4% had tax decreases, which is an average of a reduction of 3.19%. And then you had others that, you know, 10% or higher, it may have been a new bill, you know, a new property, all right? Or it could have been, you know, they put a massive addition. I don't know the details. All I know is the math that I did, okay? And the only other thing I have, Kevin, is when we get to the meetings for 2024, I created a chart that could help us out. All right, any questions?
Good.
All right, thank you.
Okay, item number 7, discussion and approval of minutes from September 18th, 2023.
Okay, I'll get those
John?
up, Deb. Minutes, here we go. Get rid of this. Get it increased so we can read it on the screen. You batting lead off, John?
Actually, I have nothing.
Okay. Deb, I can give you a couple. On the first page, on public dialogue, there's only one bullet there, starts with Mr. Leahy, line 2. Do you see where it says commission? On behalf of the board members, I think it should say, right?
Yep.
Board of Finance, right? Let's see. In page 2, on my vice chairman's report, I thought there was a section entirely missing. In other words, I did do a presentation on double pay in education, all right? The section that's missing is a bullet of its own. I can show you the slides, but in the interest of time, Kevin, if you want, I could bring the slides back up, but you know, you all have seen and now have the presentation. But I wrote down, and that's why I was almost late, a summary right from the slides, and I can go get those slides if you want to see them. Okay, and it had to do with we talked about the referendums, where we had 3 referendums back in May and June on the fiscal year 2022-23 budget. But now what I think the results are in, I think was the slide, if we remember right, team? The fiscal year, I reviewed the data with graphs, but I didn't have the graphs here. The fiscal year budget, 22-23, that was passed was $53,349,804, which was a 3.19% budget increase compared to the prior year. The dollar budget increase from the prior year was $1,651,598. And Deb, what I can do is send this to you so you can include it in the notes. The surplus for that particular year, we now know, because you don't know it when you pass a budget, was $2,404,153. So, just doing the math, you can see that the actual spending that happened in fiscal year 22-23 was 752,555 less than the prior year's budget, which was a decrease of 1.46%. That was with the slides I presented. Kevin, you're nodding. I assume you recall that. All right, and it's just the math. And where that 752,555 was, is just take that 2,404,153 and subtract off the increase. So you asked for an increase of 1.6. It turns out the surplus was 2.4. And so that's how come the statement is what it is, the math is what it is. So I suggest that that should be in there, because that was presented.
Can we just cut and paste that in?
Yeah, that
Okay.
should be my recommendation, Kevin. On the, I have two on the page 3, Deb. On the top, where it says B, allocated funds from American Rescue Fund for construction engineering services. And then made a motion to approve $27,500 to Cardinal Engineering. After that sentence, right at the end of that sentence, which ends with engineering services for Old Country Lane and Coachman's Lane, I think we unlike the other one on the prior page, I think we said where the money was coming from. Do you see what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, it should be from the same spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it says it right above under B, and then you made the motion to go along with.
Yeah, so I think we have to put, Deb, you see where,
So make it, Mr. Larry made a motion to approve 27,500 from American Rescue Funds.
Yeah,
and
to
then
Cardinal
that will be it.
Engineering, yeah.
Okay,
they were
thank
both
you.
American Rescue.
yeah. And it says it above it, but yeah, that's,
And the last thing, and I'll just, maybe it's me, I was, sometimes the diction hits you wrong. Number 10, Mr. Cifarelli reported that tax collection is good. And then it says, and residents pay in person, comma, by electronic checks and credit cards.
Maybe it should say residents have the ability to pay.
In person, so maybe a semicolon after good? Because that's kind of a thought, right? And then you can just say, and residents have the ability to pay in person by electronic, okay, then so put a semicolon after good, although I think the word good might have an
Yeah.
improvement sitting there if we were sharp
Yeah.
enough to figure it out.
Probably should say, Mr. Cifarelli reported that tax collections were strong.
Strong.
but if he said good, he said good.
I don't know.
Are we directly quoting, or are we, I don't see quotations. And if you are gonna put a semicolon, you have to take away the end.
Very good. English teacher, there it is. Thank you.
And I have one
What do you
more.
got? Yep, what page are you on?
Number 9.
Number 9, please.
Mr. McNobola made a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:10 p.m. I would get rid of the word minutes.
Hey, I got an idea. Let's not let anybody look at our notes of our meetings and have our numbers go from 8 to 10 to 9. How about we
That's me.
change the 10 to 9 and the 9 currently adjournment to 10? I didn't see that, but when you said that,
Yeah.
I saw it.
I didn't see it either.
Are we good? Yeah, what I will do is I will send you that very small Word file that I created, and I'll copy everybody else on it if you want, and, but it'll be in the notes of the meeting.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Motion by Kevin, is there a second?
I second.
Second by Ajit. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, abstain?
I'm
One
abstaining.
abstention?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, item 8, to review and approve regular meeting dates for 2024.
Oh.
There's one on here that we're not doing.
I know, but we put it on every year anyways.
April 15th, by any chance?
Maybe we'll surprise you this year,
We
Kev.
cancel that meeting all the time anyway,
Well, that'll
Yeah.
probably be the week of our
the budget.
budget hearing.
Yeah.
I'll give you those dates probably in January, so then the Board of Selectmen could,
Well, I'll tell you what,
Can go
John,
off of them.
I've already, actually, I think you have the opportunity to kind of air it now, actually.
We didn't put it on the agenda, so. not a-
Well,
not a
true
good
enough,
idea.
but all I'm saying is this, it's 1 of 2 dates, or 1 of 2 weeks.
Well, it depends on if the cafeteria is clear too. I gotta get the date cleared.
Well, when I looked at these dates, and you can see them in yellow here,
Right,
what I
Right.
did was add what we know happens. For example, Joe, you had reported out, and I had noted that Dr. Byers wanted to come and present on the 22nd. So on the right-hand side, what I have is our regular meetings in yellow, our all-day meeting, which usually is in February, although it's not on this list.
No,
Never
we
is.
determine that later,
Yeah,
because it's not a regular meeting.
yep,
This is only our regular meetings.
right. These
Okay.
are our normal.
That's what we approve,
third-
is this calendar,
Right, and this gets sent to
then we can
the-
add in, you know,
Right,
you sure you can't make that April 15th meeting, Kevin?
yeah, I won't be here.
No shot.
It's all yours, if you want to hold the meeting.
No, I usually give a day off before we say, okay, we gotta, I was thinking, John, that one of the likely dates.
But we'll leave it there, and it's just gonna it gets,
Yeah, it gets
we end up
canceled.
canceling
yeah,
Anyway,
we
'cause of the budget
usually
hearing.
cancel it.
Joe,
So-
can I ask a question, since I was starting to say, well, I might as well get it all on there? Is the AFC meetings the second Monday?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so as far as this is, does anybody have a problem with any of the, that they know they have a conflict, that we'd have to change anything, or are we good with these dates?
I think- Yep,
Okay, so then is there a motion to approve the 2024 meeting schedule?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Kevin? Jim, did you say second
no,
by
no,
Anna?
Anna,
Second.
Anna did.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, unanimous. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, item
I'll send these out to everybody tomorrow.
Item 9, to review revenue and cost reports for November 2023. Unfortunately, since we had a bad email, Anna doesn't have these, other than Art's.
You got this.
I'll start with John about anything we should be concerned with so far.
Now, John, you had handed out this other one.
Yeah,
I don't
Art-
have this electronically to put on the
No,
screen.
Art gave me that late on Friday, so it didn't get to you, so I gave it to you tonight.
Okay.
It's just his little comparison from last year to this year, where we are percentage-wise on the
Yeah,
collections.
and his was done at the end of October. where-
The only thing I really see that could be a problem on there would be building permits.
Yeah,
We seem to be down quite a
Right.
bit.
a lot.
A
Yeah.
lot, yep.
If you remember last year, we were very high though, because we had raised our fees that hadn't been raised in over 10 years. And we did have a lot of construction last year. We had Vero and all the 2 apartment houses and stuff that pulled permits. So we don't have anything that big going on right now. So I think we could have a little problem there. On the good
Well, we could have
side,
a problem, but we won't have an overall problem because
no.
we don't budget anything for Amity anymore. And I think, Joe, didn't they put the 2% in the capital, but there's still $1.4 million split with the 3 towns. That's gonna be
Yeah,
credited
that's gonna
in
be in
February.
March. They're
So,
gonna
so that'll,
reduce our
Come
payment.
down.
That'll reduce.
we're not gonna be,
On the expense side, that'll help us over there.
Yep,
The other thing, we did get a payment in from the state.
Is that on
and I
page 2,
believe
John?
I think it's under the treasurer.
Right there.
yeah, this one
You
right
see
here,
that,
the
that
big one.
582
Yeah.
there? It
What was
looks
that
like
about?
we recaptured our municipal revenue sharing. Our budgets were over that 2.5% that we lost it for a couple of years. And we did get it back because Tony Genovese and myself and Woodbridge questioned the state on Amity's special education, that we weren't taken out of it. And they said we could. So once we were able to take the Amity
dropped their
special,
increase down
it
and
dropped
then-
us down below the 2.5.
that's good.
So that was,
So if we
Good little
keep under
thing.
2.5, right, with all the appropriate Amity special ed or whatever it is, what benefit does it give us?
the state gives us extra revenue, about a little over $200,000.
200,000?
You know, it depends on their budget, but roughly
Yeah, and our Board of Ed and
200,000.
everything else.
Yeah.
What do you mean
Yep.
2.5? Our budget increase?
Our budget increased from
Less than
year to
that?
year, less than that.
Well, hold on now. If that's the case, sorry to bring it up, but the numbers are starkly screaming at me here. We budgeted 221, and we already got in 582. That sounds like more
No,
than
there's
360.
there's something else in there besides that.
Okay,
You know what it probably is? It's probably the sales tax.
That
Every
Sharon,
municipality throughout Connecticut got additional revenue from the Connecticut sales tax, which was spread out amongst every municipality. Yep.
yeah, I think that would be useful to kind of, it's good news.
The other thing we're gonna get, since we're in that area, we're gonna get more interest than what
Right.
we budgeted.
Second
I
line for
think
the
our-
top, right?
I think there's a couple of lines in there. I
Yeah.
think Art's estimating now we're gonna get a little over $1 million in interest.
Compared to the 807 that we,
Right.
Yeah, you get more than that. You're trending at $1.2 million, $1.3 million. Yeah. That's just through October.
oh, because you're talking about the
oh, so
Liberty
we
and the
went
other
to
ones,
3, and all of
Kevin?
a sudden it went to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there may be another interest increase in December that.
I don't think they're gonna do it, but who knows?
well, okay. All right, so anything else, team, on revenue, if we can, John, on page 5 of our handy sheet, which says, it's the one with a lot of little things on it. So I'm looking at a couple of things. I'm looking at, well, we have all the numbers for the accountant there, but it's a little hard to understand. The 995, 763, middle of the page,
Right.
is that? What is that?
That's the grant we get every year for education.
What was that called? I wish it was.
ECS.
I wish we just said ECS right there. you know?
It does. You get the E to begin with.
It got
and
cut
then
Right,
off.
but all I'm saying, I don't, if it's for us, right, if this document is for us, right, wouldn't it be great if it was something that we could just immediately know what it is? So, didn't that used to be like 1.2 million or more than
It's
that?
gone up
even?
and down.
Yeah,
That's
and
300,000.
some other grant money, state money went up, that went
Okay.
down.
What's the forecast for the public health NU at the bottom of the page, 200,000, is that,
That's a calculation that we do at the end of the year, when the year is over, to collect back the FICA and medical and all the other benefits that the OV&A, their charges.
okay,
Same thing with the sewer fund right there. That's an estimate of what the benefits that we gotta collect back from them and charge them.
okay.
And police special duty and park and rec, those 4 areas are adjustments at the end of the year.
John, you mentioned the OVNA. What's the latest? We've had a number of meetings with them over the last few years.
They're struggling,
You're still up.
yeah.
That's not good.
After the first of the year, we'll discuss that.
Okay, thank you. All right, I don't have anything else in the revenue. Kevin, how about you?
Oh, I'm good.
On page 3.
Page
I have
3?
a question on
Yep,
police
Alright.
general services. So I remember we had the discussion about this special duty.
Special duty. That one's like what I just discussed on the OV&A and the sewer authority. At the end of the year, we collect back from them for their benefits. FICA, Medicare, 401, whatever it is.
usually we fill up this one though, right? Yeah, this one,
If you remember last year, there was enough money in that special duty account to pay for the 2 police cars and
Yeah.
2 motorcycles.
roger that. Better that than budget for it. Okay. We good, team? Ajit?
Thank you.
Okay, expense then. Let me get this set up for us, team. And we'll see what we got. So Anna, you're getting used to our 23-page beauty here.
Yep.
Maybe more.
Another
Budget-
copy.
budget sheet.
You use Munis where
Yep.
you are? Oh, so
Okay.
And
you
Andrew
could
uses
probably teach
Munis.
me a lot of things about it.
Okay.
And that other software that we approved, is that,
I had to put that on hold because I was out.
Okay.
And we probably won't get to it this year.
so this budget cycle, we won't be using that?
Probably not,
Was that Gov?
yeah.
Gov.gov?
Yeah.
What's it called?
OpenGov?
OpenGov, yeah. Budgetary data tool. Digitize the budget.
John, on both page one, which we're looking at here, all right, let me just make it a little larger. I noticed that there was a couple of data processing, one's on page one, one's on page five, I'm sure others saw it as well. And it seemed like a lot of money is being spent early in the year on that. Is that a surprise?
No, a lot of the contracts start on July 1.
Ah. Okay.
And most of the computer costs that you see there are when we could identify the software to that specific department. Like, that is for Mark for his appraisal stuff and everything he does. What's in the information technology department
Yep.
would be software that we use across the townwide, Word, Excel, things such as that nature, internet.
Yeah, the same thing happened in the tax collector department on page five.
That would be their specific
Okay.
tax stuff.
Could I ask a question about, it's not a lot amount of money, but it surprised me, and maybe there's another reason. But on page six, top of the page, furnitures and fixtures for the tax collector, let me make sure I'm in the right area code, there it is. You know, we budgeted $1,000 and we've already spent 65, so it's
I
not a
let-
large amount of money, but it's sure not in budget.
I let him buy those file cabinets, and we'll just leave it at that right now.
Okay? I'm game. In October, I'm game, I guess. Yeah. The trade. Okay, overtime on the police, software maintenance. Halfway through, team, thank you. Remember we did that thing last year with electricity? All of electricity was at a certain rate at the time of year, that percentage, for example, right now, we're 4.5 months in, if I understand the data of this report. And so that means we're at about 37.5%, 3/8 of the year. And they were tended to be less than that percentage of the budget, 28, to use numbers. But one of the numbers last year had, in the electricity budget, had a lot of other things there that were not related necessarily to the electricity. Do you remember that conversation?
No.
And you said that it had something to do with some of the fixed costs of a contract were in that particular
Well,
line item.
last year, we had to renew our electricity costs with our outside broker. And that cost went from, I want to say 8 cents per kilowatt to 13. So we went up with when our contract was up, but because we have a contract through a broker, we didn't pay the 22 cents that UI started charging on January 1. But all our electricity line items did go up in this current budget because of that.
Well, I didn't see it this year, is what I was gonna say. So I was happy that was a one-time thing, if
No,
not.
we have a 3-year contract on the electricity, and it also includes the Board of Education,
Uh-huh,
Orange Board of Education.
okay. On page 19, so we're going real fast now. 14, let's see the page, 17, 18, here's 19. So the Board of Health, is there, I'm just noticing percentages and numbers, but we have the salary of the health at 25,690, right? Bottom of the page, John, on page 19?
Yeah, he's got a grant that he gets extra money every month from the state, that we've collected the money and we pay him.
Okay.
So there's a netting that needs to be done at some point.
It's in our revenue
You see where I'm at,
someplace.
Kevin, right?
Actually, I think
59%.
it's in last year's revenue, they paid us for, I think, 18 months, that he got additional money from the state to do some proactive health issues and stuff. And he's got another one that just granted him more money, I think, into 2025.
So John, if I could put it into words interpolating what I'm hearing. This line item is likely to go above the budget of 25,690.
Yes.
But there's revenue coming in that we don't see on this particular expense page, which
Correct.
more than makes up for it, or everything's under control, that kind of thing.
Correct.
All right, roger that?
If you remember, about 2 years ago, we had that also in the environmental health, because they had a grant too, that gave him a little extra money for doing certain things.
Okay.
They want to, Board of Health wants to come in next month if we have a meeting again, and they want to do a presentation that Kevin and I talked about.
Is that OVNA?
No,
No,
Okay.
no,
So we
that'll be
paid-
Dr. Mohammed, right?
right.
Oh, okay. In our pensions, which are on page 22, top of the page, team, we have already paid 100% of our town and our police pensions, if I read this right.
So you just funded
Correct.
the ARC early.
Those are paid in July as soon as we collect enough taxes to pay them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. And we've already paid, I have the page right. We've already paid 50% of Amity and 33% of Orange. So if you look at our total expended with those things that we pay early, such as debt service, such as the pension numbers, and certainly with Amity at 50% already, you know, you're not alarmed when we see the 45% at this, of our budget expended at this point, John?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Thank you. Item number 10.
Motion to adjourn.
Let's gonna call your name.
Where's
We have
PJ?
Motion to adjourn. Second by Ajit. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Meeting
Wow.
adjourned at 8:18. Thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you, James.